Hey, I'm Ruji, and today we're joined with
Elinor. Edith.
And I'm Ruji. Welcome to the Vegan Ambition podcast number 3. Today's main question is, what's your take on guide dogs and helper animals? But before we start, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. I'd like to thank Farmhouse Garden Animal Home, Tomatoes, and of course, Watermelon. This podcast is a tool to help vegans, vegetarians, and anyone else who's interested in the vegan lifestyle. On this podcast, we will have different guests every week, and we're going to discuss a topic on veganism, and we will debate different viewpoints. The Vegan Ambition is a no-pressure zone and a no-hostility zone. We do not pressure our guests here, but are simply here to discuss different viewpoints. I hope you'll join us on this journey, and education is our biggest goal here. If you don't know me already, I'm Ruji, and I've been vegan for over a year now. Not a perfect vegan, but I'm trying to become one, if that is a thing. Hopefully, you can join me on this journey of veganism and learn something new in the process. And this is Edith and Elinor. They are both longtime vegans. I've known them for a very long time. Why don't you guys tell us more about yourselves? Do you want to go first?
Yeah. First of all, I have to say watermelon's my favorite fruit, so I really appreciate that sponsorship.
It's actually why I put it in there. Awesome. I remember.
Great. Yeah, I've been vegan for about almost 10 years now. And I don't know what a perfect vegan is, but I do my best to live as ethically as possible. Yeah.
You're actually the first vegan I ever met. So that was very interesting.
Yes.
When we were in high school, I was like, what is veganism?
He used to make fun of me.
Yes. Yes, didn't we all?
We all start somewhere.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I made fun of vegans at some point in my life, too.
Yeah.
You made fun of me when I was vegetarian, so.
Sorry. But now I love you.
And you, Elinor?
I've been vegan for 6 years. Before that, I was vegetarian ever since I found out that hamburgers are made from cows, which are very beautiful animals, and that's about it. I'm not a perfect vegan either, but I cook a lot, so that helps.
Okay. So I'm curious because I've only been vegan for a year, but you guys have been vegan for a long time. So how has the world kind of changed since you went vegan?
I remember once when I just went vegan telling somebody that I was vegan, and they're like, what in the world is that? Like, they had no idea. They're like, do you mean vegetarian? And I was like, no, I mean vegan. And they're like, that's not a thing. What are you talking about? So I think there's definitely a lot more awareness about what veganism is. There were very, very few vegan restaurants or vegan, like mock meats and cheeses available in the supermarket. It was basically just like, I mean, I'm sure there was at some point, but I mostly stuck to the simple stuff, the fruits, vegetables, nuts,
The Whole Foods
legumes,
and stuff.
Whole Foods, exactly.
Yeah.
It was like impossible to get somebody to go to a restaurant with you that was vegan or to try like a vegan item because it was too foreign.
Yeah, and yeah, it's exactly like the whole vegan restaurant thing has just really blown up in the past few years. Even I think when we were in high school, it was pretty rare. Like, it wasn't very...
Yeah, I mean, today I went to, like, the grocery store, and it was the one I used to go to when I was in high school, and I, like, never, ever remember seeing any vegan options. Maybe I didn't look for them. Maybe I just didn't see them. But I never remember them. And I was there today, and I was like,
I'm
yes.
sure there's
Section
more.
now.
I'm sure, yeah.
Awesome.
There are
I
vegan
was
sections,
really happy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great. How about you? Well, how do you notice the change, or have you noticed the change?
I mean, I feel like people are more willing to listen to you now. Almost like veganism is like more respected as a choice versus in the past it was just like a target for abuse. Like, people would...
I think it's the opposite.
No, really?
Yeah.
I think like in the past, like, people would make fun of me for being vegan. Now it's just more accepted that that's like almost like it's a good way of living now, or like people are more educated about it. As it gets more like popular, I feel like people are just more willing to try it or have tried it now.
It's definitely getting there. I don't know if it's like there yet. I still have occasionally where I tell someone I'm vegan and they're like, oh.
I get that so much more often now.
Really?
Like, the veganism is weird thing. I think because people know what it is now, and I think because it's so prevalent that people's like guards are up against it, like people feel almost like attacked by the vegan movement a lot
I guess
of times.
it depends how it comes up in conversation. Like, if you bring it up, people are still more likely to be like, oh, of course you brought that up.
Like, oh, you think you're so much better than me now.
Yeah. Now it's like more people know somebody that's a vegan or vegetarian, so they can like bring some, like, oh, like my daughter's also vegetarian, or my friend, whatever. So it makes it like more like easy to talk about.
That's so true. Like, everyone who I'll say I'm vegan to will at some point be like, oh, like, I know, like, my like, daughter, my whatever. Like, so everyone knows a vegan. That's the thing, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Now, how did you get to vegan now? Elinor, you said that you were vegetarian first, and then you just, like, decided, or what was kind of the journey? What did you do?
I honestly just found out what meat came from an animal, and I was like, no. And then I had a doctor that wasn't the greatest. She was like, you can't be vegetarian, you won't ever have kids. Story, yeah. I was like, no, I can't have kids, like, I'm too young, I should still be able to have kids. So I went back to eating meat. Like, this was probably when I was like 11, 12. And so I was like very easily persuaded. And then I remember like Edith, we like grew up together, and she became vegan, and for a while I was like, I can't do it, it's not healthy. And I just started watching like documentaries about like animal abuse and what happens in factory farms and things like that. And then like I went vegan for the animals first, and then I realized like after that you could still be like healthy. And that was kind of like a journey of like finding out how like my body changed and like, how I got healthier from the diet.
Did you switch overnight, or did you do some kind of like slow kind of change?
I mean, like, I decided to be vegan, not overnight, because I spent like weeks watching, and then I decided to become vegan, and I cut everything out, but there were still like moments where I like fell back, and I was like, just like accidentally, a lot of things at first when you're vegan, like you'll just constantly I was constantly making mistakes. I don't know, some people might be more like better at it, but I
No, everyone does it. It happens. I mean, it happens to me all the time.
And you were so young too.
Yeah. And I'm like so easily persuaded about things. Like, I was working at a frozen yogurt shop, so sometimes people would be like, taste this, test this, and I would be like, okay. Like, I was just so young and like scared of telling people like I'm not eating dairy. But then over time I just became more confident with it, and like it was definitely for the animals, so like I just started telling people like I can't eat that, or
Okay, what about you, Edith?
I kind of had the opposite, where my mom was a really big influence on why I became vegetarian at first. I was vegetarian for a year before I went vegan too. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, when I was younger, my mom was always saying that, vegetarian is so much healthier. She never ate meat, but she did eat dairy a little bit, but like not very much. And I remember one time we had a barbecue, and I ate so much meat that I just I puked that night. I was puking the whole night, and I felt so terrible. And after that, I guess my obsession with meat kind of subsided. And I was like, hey, maybe my mom's onto something. Maybe I should cut out meat. So I did that for health reasons, and then I ended up cutting out dairy afterwards because I wanted my skin to clear up, and I thought, it would make me look better and all that kind of health stuff. And it was pretty not for the animals at all. And I even remember somebody in high school saying it was in grade 9. Someone asked me oh, are you vegan because you love animals? And I was like, no, I don't really care about that. And then a year later, I was a super passionate vegan for the animals. So
I had the same thing when I first went pescatarian. I was like, animals, whatever, but because I was in it just for the health reasons. And then now I'm like, oh, right, these are living beings.
And I feel like you also you watch Conspiracy, right? And you were big on the environmental aspect.
Yeah. My first two things were health reasons, and then the environment. And then after I visited Farmhouse with you guys, that was remember that time I came to film?
Yeah.
That was one of the moments that I always refer back to, because I remember seeing Baby, and she was so cute, and I was like, oh my god, it was crazy. So that's one of the key moments, and every time I go back and I'm like, hey Baby, and I always give her care and stuff.
Yeah.
Cows are beautiful.
It's
hard to look at them and then be like, oh, I want to eat you. Nobody would actually do that.
No.
Even my dad's still a really big meat eater, but once we were talking and he's like, sometimes when I eat a steak or something, I'm like, I think back to the animals at the sanctuary and I kind of feel bad. I'm like, wow, this is, you put a face to your meat.
Yeah, today I was in the grocery store, and my grandma was buying some meat or whatever, some chicken, and I literally was just like visualizing animals, and I was like,
yeah,
I don't want to stand here anymore, and I just like closed my eyes, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait till she's done. And I was like, today was really hard for some reason.
It opens your eyes to a really dark side of humanity. Yeah,
it's a different viewpoint, especially like I think for all of us, before we were vegan or vegetarian, we didn't view the world like we do now, and now we see it as like this like place, and we see it as like these animals, and we see just how much is happening.
Well, I feel like when you do it earlier, like when you connect an animal to the meat as a child, like you see it more clearly, versus as you get older, it's more easy to like forget the fact that it's from an animal. Which is why like I think when I was so young and I was introduced to the fact like cow's face meat, that's what like sparked it, versus like if I was older and I was in high school and I saw that, like you just don't have the same reaction anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of like, especially where we live, especially in like this developed country, everything, we're so disassociated from meat that very different. So like today, kind of, are you happy the way that everything is going? Do you have any complaints in terms of like the vegan atmosphere, or do you have any like viewpoints that you think you want to like people don't really care much about or something like that?
I think I love that veganism is expanding, and I love that more people are more documentaries are coming out. There's a lot more awareness. I do think that the vegan movement really lacks. I'm really big on like intersectionality within movements, and I think that a lot of the times the vegan movement will forget that there are other movements that are also important, and will kind of step on them.
Can you give me some examples? Just curious.
Yes. I'm thinking. There's been a lot of things with like I think like people of color not being represented within the vegan movement. It's really represented as like a white middle class kind of movement, and I don't think that's what it actually is or should be, and I think we should focus more on being inclusive. There's a lot of, I think there are a lot of groups, I think especially in Toronto, where a lot of how do I word this? Where there is an intersectionality in terms of feminism as well, where there have been allegations of like sexual harassment, and people don't take it seriously, and I think we really have to focus as a movement on respect for all beings, including humans, and especially in activist scenes that isn't really happening right now.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I know what you mean though. Okay, like I'm on a lot of Facebook groups, and I see people post stuff about just trying to make others aware that there are, vegans of different color, and vegans of different gender, and vegans of different just like race and places and stuff. And sometimes, we lose that focus. We lose that understanding that there's, this other movement happening. This other like everyone is just changing. Like the whole world is changing kind of as a whole, and veganism is a part of that. But we have to like play a part as well. Right. So I get that. That's interesting. Yeah. And that's fair. That's a good idea. Do you have anything you want, Elinor?
I mean, this is kind of controversial.
That's okay.
But I genuinely get frustrated when vegans are hard on each other, because I kind of just believe that veganism is about doing your best and trying to reduce suffering and harm for all, animals, people, everyone. So same thing, when people are trying their best to transition or do other things, like vegetarians, pescatarians, I think it's all about taking small steps. And of course, I want everyone to be vegan, and I wish we could all be perfect vegans, but everybody's got to do their best, and we got to meet people where they're at and try to help them, but not try to force them and push them. So I just think it should be we should create a more inclusive place to be. I don't know.
We should kind of understand that everyone is at a different point in their lives. As a personal example, when I went to Hong Kong, I had a tough time with veganism. At some days I was this is really hard. I didn't break, but I knew that I wasn't necessarily picking the best option all the time, because sometimes you have to get fries at McDonald's, and I don't know what's in them.
Right.
It's impossible to figure it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just need to eat. And
yeah, occasions are hard.
yeah, so it's just understanding that like yeah, everyone is kind of like at this, like everyone's trying, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here is make people aware that you know we're all on a different level of veganism, kind of, right? Like I'm not I'm not like the best vegan in the world. Edith's been vegan for 10 years. You've been vegan for 6 years, you know, and we're all like doing different things to push the vegan movement, and that's okay, and like it's okay that we're all at different points.
And you're doing everything that you can in your situation in your life right now to help the animals. Like that's what matters.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like people make steps when they're ready to make steps. Like if it could go fast and overnight for some people, that's amazing. If it takes like a little bit longer, like it's just the way it is. Like yeah. I think that's why it gets like a reputation of being something for like white middle class people, because it's like they think like it's just not inclusive enough if you like restrict veganism to such a small, like you gotta do this, like it becomes very hard to see what like veganism really is about.
Yeah, like when you start to tell people that, you know, you have to cut out all of the things that you are used to cutting out, like, or not used to cutting out, all the things that you've known for a long time, like meat and dairy.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I've done that. Then you start to tell people you have to cut out all the other products that they buy, all of the, you know, shampoos and all of the deodorants and all of the other stuff. It's like it becomes to be like a huge level.
And then all the controversial things, like palm oil and other things like that, which is like, well, like you gotta try your best.
Yeah, and then you have people just like crapping on those people, being like, you're not doing enough, and it's like, no, I'm trying my hardest.
But on the other hand, I agree with you, I totally agree, but I also totally see where those people are coming from, because especially when you know people who are activists and they see these things firsthand, the things that happen to animals, it kind of fills you with a sense of urgency, and you're like, holy crap, this is happening every second of every day.
Yeah.
And why is no one doing anything? Like, why are people taking their time? Why is this? And it kind of makes you lose sight of where people are at. And I get both sides, but I agree with you. I think that everyone's at a different place.
I mean, I get both sides also. I understand, like, we want to reduce as much harm as possible, but at the same level, it's hard to do a major shift, right? You need to kind of allow, yes, it's a slow process. It's gonna take a while. For some people, it'll be overnight. For some people, it will not. Yeah. And that's okay. You know?
I mean, like, when I went vegetarian when I was, like, 10, I remember my parents were not on board. And so, at, like, 10, I had to learn how to cook. And, like, at that point, I was eating, like, cereal, veggie patties that were, like, from, like, the grocery store, and then, like, a sandwich. And, like, it was, like, nothing. And I became so malnourished. I think that's why my doctor probably said, like, you're not going to have kids. Because I was so, like, I was on the verge of passing out because I was eating, like, veggie
I remember
patties.
you eating the same veggie patties, like, every single day.
Because I couldn't cook. Like, I didn't know how to cook, but that was the only vegetarian item, like, my parents would buy for me. So it was, like, living on what I had. And, like, I did it. Like, I was vegetarian and I struggled, but, like, it was my goal. And so I was trying my best, but...
And that still happens today, unfortunately. I mean, there's still parents that just, like, don't understand, like, don't cook for their children if they choose...
Which is
not
fine.
Everyone,
like, at that time, like, they didn't even know what vegetarian was. Like, for a Russian family to have a vegetarian, it was, like, the end of the world. So it was, like... Yeah.
Edith, I'd like you to talk a little bit about our sponsor today. I have a brief, but I want you to, like, just say some words, because this is your baby, right? This is your kind of thing. So tell me about Farmhouse Garden Animal Home.
Yeah, Farmhouse Garden Animal Home is my baby. It's an animal sanctuary located in Uxbridge, Ontario, and up until about a year and a half ago, we used to be a working cattle ranch. So every animal that would be born into that farm would, at around the age of 2 or 2.5, be sent off to slaughterhouse. And it was a humane, grass-fed, organic beef farm. It was like the highest standard of humane meat that there was. And a lot of the customers of this farmer would buy from him because it was, quote-unquote humane meat. And then about a year and a half ago, this farmer started having doubts about what he was doing.
And you were like you worked for him for a while,
Yeah,
right?
I've been working for him. That was my first part-time job. I've been working for him since I was like 15 or so.
Yeah.
And even as a vegan, I was working on that cattle ranch,
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, and that's a whole story on its own. But
and then he started.
But he started having doubts about what he was doing. We were talking a lot about what veganism is, whether it's ethical to kill and eat animals. And at around that time, a little premature calf had been born. Her name is now Hope. And he was out in the fields working with his calf. And he really connected with her, and he started thinking about how much care he's gonna give her, and how he he was out there day in, day out, and then he realized that in 2 years he's gonna end up sending her to the slaughterhouse, and it kind of dawned on him that it's so hypocritical for him to give this calf so much love and to work so much with her, and then to send her to this terrible death afterwards. And he didn't really know what to do with this information, so he kind of came up to me and we brainstormed a little bit, and we realized that a sanctuary might be the best route to go. And then that's where we are now. We've been running the sanctuary for a year and a half, and we have visitors coming in, and we have sponsors for the animals, and all of the animals are so happy and healthy, and it's a really beautiful place.
That's awesome. You heard it all here, but Farmhouse Garden Animal Home's mission is to provide a safe home for the animals in their care. They want to show others that farm animals deserve love and compassion. Each of their animals is a unique individual, and by learning and interacting with them, Farmhouse hopes to teach others to love them as well. Farmhouse Garden Animal Home subsides entirely on donations. They're a nonprofit with 30 cows, 2 horses, and 1 duck. Is that?
Yeah, and a donkey and chickens.
Oh, and a donkey
horses.
and chickens. I couldn't remember.
It's okay.
So please consider donating to them or visiting them in their beautiful farm in Uxbridge. You can find them on the web, on Facebook, on Instagram, or by visiting farmhousegardenanimalhome.com. Thank you, Farmhouse Garden Animal Home, for being here, kind of. And so now, Edith and Elinor, I'd like to get on to today's kind of main debate question, and that is, what's your take on guide dogs and helper animals?
Start it off, girl.
Me? Okay. Now, this is a tough one. I recognize that there are many viewpoints here. I personally think that guide dogs and helper animals are a really important part of people's lives, and a lot of people can't function without them. And I think it's a relationship that goes both ways for the most part. If the animals are given a loving home, there's no reason why the animal can't benefit just as much as the human can. And I think that's totally okay when an animal has been bred for so many years to enjoy doing a certain type of work, as long as they are in an environment that is healthy for them as well. I think it's good. Now, of course, I'm against breeding animals at all for any purposes whatsoever. So, but I think like taking a rescue as a guide dog or a service animal, I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Now, I just want to pose a hypothetical. What happens in a world where breeding for animals is no longer a thing, but we still need guide dogs?
And you're saying there are no rescues?
There's no rescues, yeah. So no, there's no rescues, and basically the only option is breeding.
Right.
For guide dogs. I'm just curious. It's a hypothetical. Obviously, probably will never happen.
Of course, because right now in the situation we live in, there's such a huge problem with overpopulation of animals. Yeah. But, wow, in that situation, I'd hope that, that far off into the future, we would maybe have some kind of alternatives. Yeah. And see, I don't know, if there isn't an overpopulation problem of animals, then is it really bad to breed them?
So my view of breeding animals, and it's kind of a different
or
topic,
letting them breed. Do you know what I mean? Not breeding artificially.
Yeah. So a lot of animals are bred to be one type of dog, right? Then you have kind of a problem where you're not mixing breeds, and that creates a secondary problem of dogs being really hurt and stuff, and not being very healthy.
Do service animals have to be a certain breed? I don't know. I just don't know that much about this topic in terms of...
Most service animals that I know are a certain breed. So I don't know a ton either, but what I've seen, what I've kind of like known of like, and I've met service animals, is that it seems like they are like specific. They're like a one breed. They're not necessarily a mix.
I think like it's less about what breed and more about the temperament of the animals that they choose to breed, and like.
Is that not through training though that they build that kind of a?
Not as I understand it, through training. Training can assist a lot of things, but temperament is still a breed specific thing to some level. So it's a hard question. What about you, Elinor? Kind of what's your view on guide dogs and helper animals?
I think like I agree in the sense that if it was like an animal that was you were adopting or like a rescue animal versus actually breeding, and then I think a big part of this is what went into the training. And again, like I don't know enough about how they train these animals, and I'm assuming the reason why it's so controversial is because training these animals is often done in not the greatest ways. Like there's situations of abuse whenever they're training animals to be like very strict with them. And so like I think it depends a lot on that, like how the animal was, whether the animal was taken care of and the relationship with the owner and the animal. And then like again, it's really hard to tell somebody because like animals, they don't judge you, and humans judge each other, and that's why like animals and humans have such a good relationship, and that's why they're helper animals, because humans like I guess we just connect with them, and I understand that connection. And especially when somebody needs that animal, needs a helper dog because they've got a disability or some sort of mental health issue or stress in their lives, I get it. I think it's just like, can we do something else? How is the animal trained? Like, can we do better? Can we ask more questions? Like,
now, one of the threads that I remember reading on for this topic was people were saying that it's not like a vegan, like it's not like helper dogs and guide dogs are not vegan. And one of the arguments that I saw was that if we should be depending on humans more as helpers. But from my perspective, is even in like a developed nation like ours, people's like they don't have like people who like their money, like some people don't have a lot of money, and at a core level, I mean, a dog is cheaper than a human, even as a guide dog. And so it's like, yes, we should have more human help, but at the same time, I mean, it's like where we're at right now, there's like no getting away from it.
I don't think it's so wrong to get help from an animal. I mean, like even if you don't have a service animal, like you derive some kind of pleasure from having a pet, right? Like you have this, like the pet like can help you with stress or for fun. Like we use animals for fun all the time when we're petting them, right? So as long as it's a mutualistic thing where like the animal is benefiting as well. I don't know if I...
Now, what do you think about the idea that this guide dog is working? They're not necessarily because they're not a pleasure pet, right? They're not there for pleasure. They're there to work. Because if you're somebody who suffers from epilepsy or from like multiple different things, they are there. They're your tool, kind of, to help you when you need it. Like I know I have a friend. She trained a guide dog, and the guide dog now helps this individual who is like he's like quite disabled. So the dog helps to get like to open the door and to do other things like that. But that's like they're working. Now I still think that is the way that I understand their relationship is that owner still loves that dog and still pays a lot of attention to that dog. But that's not always the case. Which is, I mean, obviously edge cases exist always. So it's hard to kind of say what is good and what is not.
But isn't that with any pet ownership? Like there could be bad and good pet owners in any situation, right? And I mean, you can call it working, but once again, like if this, I don't know.
That's what I've seen. I've seen people calling it working, and the way that I see it is like it's probably more like a half. you're probably working half the time, and then half the time you're not.
Is it working, or is it like stimulation for the animal? Like when you play fetch with an animal, like is it working for you, or is it like playing, or is it for that?
I mean, I would say that playing fetch and playing like with a ball and stuff, you're trying to derive pleasure for the animal because they enjoy running, generally speaking, versus the animal, like the dog, having to open the door or doing other tasks. It's totally hard, and we're all allowed to be on a different point, right? It's all good. It's just.
I feel like animals can derive, and now I don't know. Like I don't know what the animal's thinking. I guess that's the hard part, that you don't know what the animal wants, right? Yeah. But I think once again, like when animals, like I mentioned before, like with Newfoundland dogs, how they really enjoy like if someone's in the water drowning, like they'll literally run in after that person because that's what they were bred for and now it's our problem that we've bred them that way. That's something that is maybe a good thing or a bad thing or whatever, but the fact is that they're bred to do certain things, and that's what they derive pleasure from right now. And it's the same with like some draft horses as well. They've been bred to do work, and now I'm not commenting on whether it's okay to use animals in farming operations or draft horses, or it's complicated, but I don't think that it's necessarily all evil for the animals.
Okay.
I think it's different too, because in those cases the animals are acting more out of instinct. Like they weren't ever specifically trained to go like do something. Like if a dog like saves you, there's lots of cases of like dogs saving their owners. Like those regular dogs like aren't trained for that. They might be bred to have those instincts, but they're just following an instinct, versus like when they're an actual working dog, a helper dog, they've gone through like a really long training process to have that like connection. Well, to be able to do those things, and like to not have it be instinct, to have it be something that they're always like on alert for. And I think that's the thing, is that they're always like more on alert. That's why people call it working. I don't know if it's like exploitation of the animals or anything like that. Like I think that they're potentially still benefiting from the relationship, but it's hard to say.
It's really hard to say, and I mean that's one of the things that I can see is like we're all like unsure. It's like a very difficult kind of place because we all understand like the need for these animals. Absolutely. For humans. Yeah. But at the same point, we all also think like these animals are animals and maybe we shouldn't be using them.
It's kind of like, do they have a right to just do what they want, like without human interference? Like, do they have that right?
Yeah,
but it's also like, do we need helper dogs?
Yeah.
Can we transition to like not have dogs like be helper dogs to just?
Yeah, I think that's.
Because I think that's like the thing about like veganism is like reducing suffering when like as much as possible. Like not having it be like not impractical. Impractical isn't the right word, but not having it like endanger somebody's lives. Like, is that helper animal helping that person survive? And then again, like, is the human's life or emotions more important than the animal's emotions? Like, there's just so many things that are like just debatable.
It's hard to say. Yeah.
I think ultimately I would say that there is a need right now for it. And I do think that, I don't think it's super, I don't think that somebody who needs a guide dog can necessarily, like, not be vegan. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did I say that okay? But, you know what, like, it doesn't make you non-vegan to need a service animal.
Okay.
But I do understand the gray areas and how some people might see it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's gray areas everywhere in veganism. I have a question for you guys. Do you love pizza, pasta, and Bloody Caesars?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because none of those things would be as tasty or as amazing without an important fruit. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are super yummy. They're just a little acidic and as tasty as can be. They have protein, carbs, and just the right amount of vitamins. They make lots of dishes that taste tastier and go great fresh as well. So head on down to the local farmer's market or the local grocery store, or heck, your local convenience store might even sell them. And try tomatoes today. Make sure to try all the different kinds. Thanks, Tomatoes, for sponsoring today's podcast. So, Edith and Elinor, now comes maybe the most interesting part of the day. It's time for the taste test. We're going to be trying Yves Veggie Breakfast Links. And I know you guys have never tried them before. I asked you earlier. Maybe they have been sitting around for like 30 minutes, so they're definitely cold. But that's not a problem. So why don't you guys try it? Do you want a fork? I have, if you want. Okay. Great. So, I mean, they're like little sausages, right?
I mean, the smell is good.
They smell good. They smell like more, I would say they smell more fake meaty than the other Yves hot dogs that I've had.
Yeah, I don't really smell meat.
I don't know what I smell.
It's like spicy. Not spicy. Spices.
Spices? You smell spices?
How do they look? Do they look like meat?
I have
It's a little
limited
bubbly.
smelling capacity right now, though, so.
It just looks like a little piece of bread to me.
Oh, spread? Oh, it doesn't look like that to me. It looks like a little like English link sausage, kind of.
Okay.
I mean, they do look like sausages. I wouldn't call them links though. Links are supposed to be like linked, like
Yeah.
actually linked, and these are not linked.
No, they look like breakfast sausages, but not real sausages, which are like the thicker ones you're probably
Okay.
thinking of.
But they're brown, which is like very brown.
But is that because the way you cook them?
No, they were brown before.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the crispness is how I cook them. All right, so let's all try them and we'll see what people say. What we say. Oh, I did not expect that texture.
Yeah,
The
the
outside.
texture threw me off.
It was really hard to bite
It's a
into.
lot more dense than I expected too.
Yeah, it's like dough instead of.
It's not
This
bad.
really tastes like bread to me. Is this weird?
It kind of feels like bread to me too.
It's bread.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah.
Maybe
It's
it's,
very-
gluten.
Maybe it's cold. Maybe that's why
Maybe
it's
because it's
so
cold.
bready.
Well, it's not that cold. It's not like.
No, it's not like how it came out of the fridge. I'm not sure what's in it. No, it's soy, water, soy protein, wheat gluten is the third ingredient.
Yeah.
Bready.
Taste that.
Interesting. Textured soy protein later on.
I
Very
feel like it
interesting.
doesn't taste like meat though.
It doesn't taste like meat, no.
Not that I remember, but
Yeah, me neither. So it's kind of hard to say.
I can't say I'm the biggest fan.
No.
I would still eat it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I can eat these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
No,
first
I
bite was like a.
I would eat it, but I wouldn't give it to someone who I'm trying to like impress as a vegan. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what throws me off? I don't like things that really taste like meat or like remind me of meat because that's like I don't like it. So when I first bit into it, because of that, like it has like a snap from the skin that kind of reminds me of a hot dog from the past, you know,
I know
and
what
it
you
throws
mean.
me off
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I know those are like actually intestines. So I don't want to. I don't want to feel that.
Okay. Have you guys tried the Beyond Burger?
Not yet.
Yeah.
You have? You haven't tried it?
We had it at one of the sanctuary events.
Did you like it?
It was good. Yeah.
Really?
I really liked it.
I hated it.
You hated it?
I hated it.
What?
It was too meaty for me. Like it was
Oh, okay.
too
But
much.
it was meat. See, I really liked the taste of meat back when I ate it. So like, I like that. I think it
Okay.
was so good.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. I mean,
Is
I
that the
did
one
not.
that bleeds?
No, that's the Impossible Burger, which
They,
I think
I
is
think they
actually
both bleed.
well. Impossible Burger uses is it
Heme?
heme, whatever however you pronounce it. This one I think uses beet juice,
Oh.
but the heme gives it that like metallic-y kind of bloody taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I tried both. I didn't try both. I don't know which one I tried. I can't remember. So I don't know. But okay, conclusion on these. Would buy again? No.
No, definitely not.
I could see them kind of going with like tofu scramble, but
Oh yeah,
and like some ketchup, but
maybe.
I
I feel
think-
like that's more just for the aesthetic. Like they look like they could go with it, but they don't
Yeah.
taste good enough to.
I think they're too dense for me. Like they're that's the problem. They're just like are kind of weird. But we did finish them all. I mean, we're all going to.
Yeah,
Seems like.
I guess.
You don't have to. We can put it back if you don't want it.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't
There's like little pieces.
Edith really doesn't like it.
I'll finish it.
Okay. It's okay. Listen.
It's weird. I don't know.
I mean, not all vegan food is like phenomenal. We all know that.
Maybe if it was like all dressed on like a bun or something.
But they're not supposed to go with that.
They're
They're
not.
supposed
You're just missing out on what these are.
What
But-
are they?
You're like,
See?
I've never had it.
Again?
See the photo? That's what they're supposed to be like. They're
So you're just supposed to eat them on their own.
yeah. They're for breakfast. Actually, I don't know if those are real
Yves.
eggs or not. I'd be surprised. Yves is all vegan, right?
No, it's not.
Yves
It's
is
a
not all
vegetarian
vegan?
company.
But I haven't seen anything of theirs.
Pretty sure they're vegetarian.
My grandma used to work in that factory.
Really?
Yeah, they're vegetarian. Well, they were mostly vegetarian, and now they have a lot more vegan options.
I've never seen anything of theirs that isn't vegan.
They label it all vegetarian or vegan like at the top, I think.
I should be more careful then.
What else
I
is
definitely
vegan?
just always pick them up whenever I see them. But I also only pick up like the same 3 things ever. So it's kind of.
So you've eaten this before?
No, I've never tried this before. I've tried the sausages before, like the hot dogs before, and I have all the burgers and stuff. Like I eat those all the time because barbecue. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Barbecue season. I had a barbecue recently, and almost everyone ate vegan the whole day, and I was like super happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, only one person. I was like, you can bring meat because I'm not gonna like push my values on people. And one person brought like hot dogs and he had like 2, and I was like, okay.
Only one. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
out of like 10 people, I was like, not bad.
That's amazing.
Doable. It's good. We're coming to a new world here.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any like fake meats or like vegan things that you really like that I should have on this podcast?
And Gardein is an obsession.
Yeah.
Like it's bad.
Have they brought
it's
in?
good, but the obsession is bad.
Have they brought in everything else? I remember they had only 4 for a really long time.
No, I think I've only ever seen like 3 things.
Really? They used to. They have like a huge collection of stuff, but it's not available in Canada right now. Still, I think.
I think their fish is still available here.
Yeah, fish was
good.
always
I
available.
haven't tried it.
I haven't tried the fish,
I
but
don't like
the
it.
breaded chicken,
Yeah, those are good.
those are good.
Actually, Yves, chicken nuggets. I think they're Yves. Yeah, they're Yves.
Yeah.
They sell them at Walmart, I think,
Okay.
and they are fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I gave them to my sister, to my niece, my nephew. Everyone loved them. They're
That's
exactly the same. They
I
like,
guess because chicken nuggets are literally just like a compilation of random stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways.
they taste just like
Yeah.
chicken nuggets from my
That's good to know.
past.
You should also put the vegan egg on the show. That
Okay,
stuff is
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I liked
I need to go to do a grocery haul, like, and just grab a bunch of stuff for my podcast because I've just been buying stuff
Yeah.
as I see it. But I need to just go grab a bunch of stuff because I haven't tried a lot. Okay, cool. So Edith, you love watermelon, is that right?
It is my favorite fruit ever.
Your favorite fruit. I actually have some in the fridge.
Taste test that.
Bring it up, Daniel.
I love watermelon. You love watermelon. I think everybody loves watermelon. It's fresh, it's tasty, it's sweet, it's red and green on the outside. Watermelon is just the best. When you head to the store and you see that stack of, watermelons in that bin, make sure you knock the watermelon a little bit, check that it sounds beautiful, and get a watermelon today. You can try them at your local grocery store. Oh man, I love watermelon so much. It's like
It's just like summer.
Yeah.
It is summer.
yeah, and I'm so good at cutting them. I'm like a
Really?
professional. Yeah,
That's
it's the best.
impressive.
And thank you, Watermelon, for sponsoring today's episode. And as the final segment, I have a recipe for everyone. Before we go to it, is there anything that you guys would like to say to people?
I know we talked a lot about how veganism is like hard and being perfect is hard, but I do want to say that I think it's so much more accessible now, and it really is not that difficult of a lifestyle change to move towards. And I really encourage people to try at least to incorporate more vegan meals. There's websites like challenge22.com that really spell everything out for you, and they pair you up with nutritionists, and there's so many resources out there that make it easy, and like we didn't have it as easy as people could have today, so just take that step and try it out. Nothing to lose, everything to gain.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's and everyone's gonna have a different journey, right? Like, someone will do like meatless Mondays for like a year or for 10 years and then eventually transition. Someone will go overnight and someone will go like how I did, which was pescatarian and then vegetarian and then vegan. So, everyone has a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say?
I mean, you can't be what you just said. Like, it's easy, you're gonna feel good, hopefully, it's gonna be an amazing time, you get to share with everybody, you try out like so many things that you've never tried before, because I feel like when you're like eating like an omni diet, you're just like used to eating very similar things. Your tastes change. You try new foods. You have to experience like a whole new world of eating. So, and it's for the animals.
That's actually a great point because I remember I like hated a lot of vegetables and now I love so many new
Your
vegetables.
palate
Of course.
changes.
Totally, yeah.
And you get used to seeing your plate look different too.
Yeah, and I think if you're having difficulty with making that transition, like go to an animal sanctuary near you, go to a vigil, like look at the animals, like connect with the animals, look them in the eyes and see who you're eating. And it makes it a lot easier to stop eating animals when you realize how incredible they are.
That's fair. Alright, so today's recipe comes from Vegan Society. You can find it at vegansociety.com, and it's for sweet potato soup. The ingredients are 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil, 1 onion diced, 1 tablespoon of finely chopped fresh ginger, 1 tablespoon of vegan Thai red curry paste, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of sweet potatoes diced, 1 3/4 cup of canned reduced fat coconut milk, 4 1/3 cups of vegan stock. I guess like vegetable stock. I've never heard it referred to as vegan stock. Juice of 1 lime and 2 tablespoons finely chopped fresh coriander to garnish. In a large heavy based saucepan, heat the oil over medium high heat. Add the onion and ginger and cook, stirring for about 5 minutes or until soft. Add the curry paste and salt and cook, stirring for a further minute or so. Add the sweet potatoes, coconut milk, and stock and bring to a boil. Reduce the heat to medium and simmer uncovered for about 20 minutes or until the sweet potatoes are soft. Puree the soup either in batches or in a blender or a food processor or a handheld blender, and return the soup to the heat and bring it back up to a simmer. Just before serving, stir in the lime juice and serve hot and garnish with coriander. I'd like to thank today's sponsors, Farmhouse Garden Animal Home, Tomatoes, Watermelon, Edith, and Elinor, and you, the listeners, for being here with us today. If you have any questions or a suggestion, or you want to be a sponsor, or you want to be on an episode, send us an email at veganambitionpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day. Anything you want to say?
Thanks for
Thanks for having us on.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was
All right.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.